Today in this week's Cannabis News, we just wanted to provide you with a few updates on previous news that we talked about with some bills and legislative action. Another update on the temporary operator litigation going on right now in the Court of Claims, as well as a little fun research study that opened up more recently talking about the Munchies. So first off, just to Travis likes the Munchies, so we're gonna go into that last. But first, officially now, Senate Bill 203 was signed by Governor Whitmer. That was the bill, if you recall from last week and previous episodes, that basically corrected the application process for applicants under the MMFLA. Previously, there was a correction that allowed less than 10% owners to go through a more abbreviated disclosure process and not have to go through the full vetting process, according to Laura. And then there was some readjustments related to industrial hemp where that language was not corrected. So this bill, Senate Bill 203, officially corrects that language and now officially makes those changes 100% complete, such that now there's more of a 10% threshold as compared to before, and there will be a little bit more relaxed ways for applicants to apply.
Right. It's all a complicated way of saying there was a new rule put in place that created this 10% threshold for disclosures, while other bills were pending relying on the old language. And the way these bills got passed at the end of last year is we changed the definition of applicant for the MMFLA. One of the other bills that passed afterwards changed it back, and this is a bill just correcting the course forward. You know, the intention was for that new 10% threshold rule to be in place. That's what Senate Bill 203 is doing.
Mm-hmm. So up next is updates on temporary operation litigation and House Bill 4440. As far as the updates on the House bill, that did basically House Bill 4440 is going to put penalties in place for those facilities that are holding themselves out to be existing facilities or obtain their license in bad faith. And so what that potential new law says is that if you are one of these types of facilities, you are ineligible to apply for a state operating license for a year. What happened was the House voted 102-4 in favor of these changes, and the bill now is going to go to the Senate for potential changes or revisions and a vote. If there's any potential changes, it has to go back to the House, back to the Senate. There needs to be one bill reconciled, and then it goes to the governor's desk, and she gets to determine whether or not to sign that. We'll keep you posted on the updates on that. In terms of temporary operator litigation, there was a case filed in the Court of Claims, and a temporary restraining order was placed, allowing temporary operating facilities to remain open for the time being. Court of Claims Judge Borrello did hear arguments from both sides, and there were some comments. He was quoted, not blaming but criticizing legislators for potentially not acting timely in order to correct these issues, which then led to the department to have to make these kind of moving deadlines and keep changing things back and forth. So we're going to wait for the official ruling from Judge Borrello, which is anticipated to be a week from now, and we can continue to keep you updated on those matters.
Right, and we have effectively, the next week before officially something's going to change. So the temporary restraining order that was previously put in place after the last hearing continues forward until we get the final ruling from the judge. Mm-hmm. So keep posted. We'll be talking about it next week, I'm sure.
We keep talking and not talking about it. So it's always been a moving target, and we'll continue to keep you updated on that. Last but not least, Michigan State University released a recent study that had to do with the Munchies. And so, as you know, there's a stereotype kind of in the cannabis industry, in the cannabis world, that smoking cannabis gives you the Munchies. You think of the typical kind of stoner stereotype with a bag of Cheetos or Doritos, just kind of chowing down on food. And so what this study says is funded by the National Institutes of Health and published in the International Journal of Epidemiology, basically examined users and non-users of cannabis as it relates to hunger and I guess binging and purging on food when they're high on cannabis. And so it studied 33,000 adults over 3 years. All of them, unfortunately, showed a weight increase over 3 years, so I guess that's not a good thing to think about with the passage of time. But basically, compared to users versus non-users of cannabis over a 3-year period, it actually interestingly found that the users of cannabis had less of a weight increase than non-users. And so I'm not sure what that means. Obviously, with a lot of these studies, there's a lot of things that these researchers don't answer. But I think what it kind of sheds a light on is not to take stereotypes at face value. There's a lot of differences between correlation and causation. And certainly as it relates to cannabis across the board, there's a lot of need for further research into not only these fun topics such as, do cannabis users actually get the munchies and get high over a period of time and gain more weight than non-users, but also certainly for more medical purposes and for potential public policy questions we might have. There definitely needs to be further research on cannabis in the future.
Certainly. So that pretty much wraps it up for some of the news stories we want to talk about this week.